Today we're going to be taking a look at John Wick Chapter 4 and the biggest reasons why you need to absolutely see this movie. So for John's actions over the past 3 movies against the High Table, the table summons the Marquis, played by Bill Skarsgård, to find, punish, and kill John Wick and any of his associates. To do this, the Marquis enlists the help of Caine, a retired blind assassin played by Donnie Yen, who is also good friends with John Wick. With seemingly no way out for John, he challenges the Marquis to single combat, a way for John to get the High Table off of his back and finally be free. So this movie has unbelievable hype right now, with some people calling it one of the best action movies ever made, but I have to admit, about 30 or so minutes into this movie, I actually didn't share that same feeling. I guess to get my one criticism out of the way here, a lot of the early action sequences to me felt pretty stale and repetitive. Don't get me wrong, there are some great action moments here, but early on, everyone is kind of dying the same way. They all have these like Kevlar bulletproof suits, so every bullet to the body doesn't do anything, so everyone just dies to a bullet to the face. And I didn't really know what the stakes were because there's literally a point in this movie where John takes a shotgun blast from pretty close range but survives because he has one of these suits on. But the guy who kept this movie afloat early on when I did have these issues was Donnie Yen, and he shines throughout the entire movie. Not only was his character just a complete badass, but his character was so likable and funny, and I understood and believed in the friendship that he has with John. And by the end of the film, I was honestly rooting for him. Because you understand that he's not a bad guy. He's just a dude who's given an ultimatum and is just stuck in this unwinnable situation. And it's because of this emotional tug of war that you feel, where you obviously want to root for John Wick because he's the main character. We spent 3+ movies with him, but now you also want to root for Donnie Yen. So I found this to be the most emotionally investing John Wick movie since the first one. I mentioned that the first action set piece in this movie was a little bit underwhelming for me, so I had to wait a little bit before I got that first great action moment. And when it finally happened, you get like 8 more. There are so many great action moments throughout Acts 2 and Acts 3 that are so memorable and do what I think this John Wick franchise does really well, which is just embrace the absurdity. There's yet again another great action sequence in a nightclub where John fights a crime boss that is as if Wilson Fisk was like a 5-star gymnast. There's a thrilling action sequence in France where John needs to get from point A to point B. It starts at the Arc de Triomphe, where John is fighting waves and waves of enemies in the middle of traffic, and everyone is getting tossed into cars, getting hit by cars, but they're still fighting. It's ridiculous. The action carries over into a building that has the coolest shot in the entire movie. It's this long take, like bird's eye view shot that feels straight out of your classic video games like Metal Gear. And what all of these moments have in common is that they just kept it simple. Like there's no bulletproof suits or anything like that. It's just John fighting countless and countless waves of NPCs and becoming so hilariously indestructible that you can't help but laugh. He's getting hit by cars, he's falling off of buildings and landing face first into the streets, he's falling down stairs. So that like borderline slapstick comedy always works for me in these movies. But these movies also do a great job with the nuances. Like I just can't help but laugh when John has just killed about 800 people, and one guy shows up, super dramatic, looking all cool, smoking his cigarette, just to get shot in the head like a mere seconds later. And lastly, I have to give a huge shout out to the director, Chad Stahelski. Despite this movie almost being 3 hours long, I would argue that this is the best paced John Wick movie since the first one. So it's the really effective pacing, but also the aesthetic of this franchise just keeps getting better and better. The production design and cinematography is so gorgeous that you forget you're watching a brutal, gory action movie. And who cares if some of these stylistic choices don't make sense? Like, I don't care that there's rain that looks like it's from a hurricane pouring down in a nightclub, or that there's people dancing across the camera even as bullets fly by their face. It all doesn't matter because it looks incredible. But those are my biggest reasons why you absolutely need to see John Wick Chapter 4. If you happen to see it, let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.